Mic check, mic check. Peace, peace, family. I'm live and we're continuing the conversation tonight. The conversation is the summer of transformation. All right. Um, so at the beginning of the summer, uh, I started interviewing, just doing interviews. We've been talking about transformation of all kinds. We've been talking about drug uh, addiction and transformation. We've been talking about food addiction and transformation. We've been talking about weight transformation. We've been talking about all types of transformation. That's what this conversation is about. Hopefully, somebody can see this, catch this, share it with somebody. We all have addictions. If you don't know anybody, my man Curtis in the building early. What's up, family? Good evening. And I appreciate you being in here. Um, we've been having a great time. Today is day 30 of uh the lifestyle challenge that we're in. Okay. You guys don't know what the lifestyle challenge is a group that I run, okay? And all it is, my man Bruce. Bruce is in the building. Peace, peace, family. I wanted to talk to you, man. I seen you a couple weeks ago. You looked like you were in Pittsburgh, man. I think you were at the Overlook. And I was like, damn, that's one of my favorite spots in the whole city. And you was there, and I tried to get at you, but uh, I don't think you responded. But it's okay. It's all love. How you enjoy the city, though? But anyway, well, we were talking about the lifestyle challenge. Okay, so the lifestyle challenge is really simple. It's just eating from nature from 30 days for 30 days. Okay, all you do, all right, is cut out everything else. You know what I mean? Now, it's not just eating fruits and vegetables. Okay, fruits and vegetables are great, but it's also a couple other things that I slide in there. Okay, for this challenge. One of them being intermittent fasting. Okay. Intermittent fasting means you stop eating at a certain time and you don't start eating again for a certain amount of hours. Okay. Simple. Something else I put in there is the circadian rhythm. Okay. So you're eating fruits and vegetables, but you're eating according to your circadian rhythm, right? So when you wake up, you don't eat anything until like 12 noon when the sun is highest in the sky. And then you can start consuming. Okay. And then when the sun goes down, you don't eat anything. Okay. So there's a couple things tied in there um, that's going to help people stay on track. Okay. Congratulations to the 12 people that took that journey with me this month. 30 days. And, we had a lot of slip ups. We had a lot of slip ups, but like I told you guys personally, you made it. Okay, you made it. You got through them 30 days. Um, I think the most slip ups one person had was 4 days. Okay, 26 days, 26 days out of 30 that they've ate nothing but fruits and vegetables, and they feel wonderful. Okay, that means they cut out all the junk that they were eating, all the trash that they were eating for 26 days. They never done that before. Okay. So everybody wants to continue again. They know they can do it better next time. They know they can do more fruits this time instead of vegetables. You know what I'm saying? Less cooked foods and more raw foods. So the transformation just continues. That's why I love it. That's why I love doing what I do. Okay. So we're on day 30. We're starting again first thing tomorrow. First thing, July 1st. We're starting all over again. We've been doing that now for 2 years now. 2 years every day. It's a lifestyle. That's why I call it the lifestyle challenge. Okay. But yeah, so we've been talking about, I want to call it dependency. I can't keep saying addiction because you're not allowed to say addiction. And I just said it again, but we're going to be hearing that a lot this conversation. Okay. This guy we got coming on, our guest that we got coming on, we got a special guest coming on tonight, and he's beat uh, heavy addiction. Okay. I'm talking about heavy drugs. Okay. That he's beat it. And now he owns a couple farms. He's farming every day. He's mono eating. He's juicing. He's fasting. A lot of people in the fruit community might have never heard of him before. He's really low key. We've been talking back and forth for a while, off camera. And he's a really good guy. And he just wants to get his story out there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm giving him that platform to tell his story. Okay. So you guys are going to hear that tonight. Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on my man Nick.
Hey
Peace,
everybody,
peace,
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 peace.
family.
How are you?
I'm great, man. I'm great. I'm having a great day. My day 30. Actually, we just been juicing the last couple of days. So the last couple of days, instead of that's something different that we don't usually do a lot. We usually start out the month juicing or doing mono fruit, but just because it's been so hot and understanding how hydrated we need to be and how we need electrolytes. Me and wifey just been juicing, and she's about to start our juice company out. She's about to start up her juice company, Lazy's Fruit Squeeze. So shout out to her and all the hard work that she's been doing. She's making sure she's one of those people. She got to make sure it's perfect to get it up there out there.
Yeah,
Nick Diz,
sounds amazing.
my man in the building. So you
Yeah,
got a couple people shouting you out there. I'm not sure. You might be friends with a couple of people. I know you're familiar with the community a little bit, but tell us a little bit about what you do, family.
yeah. So that whole community aspect is kind of cool. I just am, as I've told you, new to social media, or not new to social media, but technology and I kind of have a hard time intermingling with one another. So, yeah, I know some of these names, and I'm connected somewhat, but just as far as like posting and getting connected with people has been kind of low on my priority list just because like you had said they're not I don't own four farms, but I do practice like backyard farming. It's a
Oh,
technique
okay.
where you like utilize any space you can in people's backyards and make some sort of agreement with them, whether that's they get a percentage or they're just a lot of times cool with you using the space. And a lot of the
Oh,
times it's
okay.
just heavily thick weeded areas that take a lot of work to get it farmable. But so it's like
Mm.
I'll call it like a cooperative kind of project with a handful of people I met at the farmers market a couple of years ago. So it's pretty cool, but it's a lot of work.
Oh, okay. Cool. That was my misunderstanding. I thought you said you was running four farms. You didn't say you owned them, right?
Yeah, we're
Oh,
running,
okay.
working. You know,
Running, working them. Yeah. So so of course we're talking about dependency. I'm going to call it dependencies, and we
yeah,
all there's so many different type of dependencies that if you're watching, please share this. I'm sure all of us know somebody that's dependent of something, right? They're dependent on something, or they're addicted to something, right? We all know that, okay? But we're talking to Nick here. What's up? You got a little dog over there? We
I
love
got
animals, man.
two chocolate Labradors. They're stepsisters. She'll be popping in and out, I'm sure, throughout the whole thing. She just ate herd meals, so she'll be having high energy too. So
That's dope. I love
there's a
labs, man. I had a black lab, but I had a black lab before. Dope, dope. Wifey's in here. She loves dogs too. I haven't brought myself to even get another dog since my last dog, man. My last dog ran away, and I'm still hurt about it. That was years ago. I'm still hurt, man. You know they're family members, so.
definitely that's
So
actually part of the deal.
yeah, definitely. So yeah, so when we're talking about dependencies, we're talking about all type of dependencies. Some people are dependent on coffee. Some people are dependent on chemicals, man. Some people are dependent on medicine. Some people are dependent on people. Some people are dependent on technology, right? We just talked about that, right? Some people get over dependent on technology. And it's so hard when you're on your spiritual journey, when you're addicted to something, right? Because uh, you know, your spiritual journey is all about connecting with your inner self, your higher self, right? So, which usually means that you have to cut off all those other outside things of the outside world, right? And it could be anything down to coffee, anything, right? And me and you talked on the last conversation about how hard it was to get rid of coffee. Like that was my last thing. You guys don't know, I've been vegan now for 9 years. Wifey been vegan now for 10. Okay, fruitarian for about four years. That's 90% fruit. Most days 100%, but there's some days that we do eat vegetables and we do eat cooked meals, but that's another conversation. But out of all that time, I just stopped drinking coffee about 2 or 3 years ago. Okay. I drank it black. I didn't drink it with no sugar, no dairy, or nothing in it, but I was still drinking coffee. I was that dependent on it, should I say. You know what I'm saying? Until I discovered mushroom coffee, right? So while I'm on that conversation, um, a lot of people try to go cold turkey, right? They try to just like, all right, I'm done with that. And that how does that usually work out? We know how that usually works out. So what I teach and what I coach and what I try to tell people in the lifestyle challenge that you have to replace it with something, right? You have to replace it with something. Even the hardest drugs have to be replaced with something to help cope and get off of it, right? So I'm going to leave you the floor, Nick. I'm going to have you tell your journey a little bit about what you were dealing with and what you did to overcome it.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I know we've been building for a minute. Because I got, it's just such a problem in our culture, and I personally have just surrounded myself with this community of people in recovery, or however you want to call it. So like I'm used to these dialogues.
Mm,
So I recognize that there's a disconnect between a lot of people that maybe never had to sit down with themselves and have a discussion
mm,
about some behaviors or some sort of compulsive actions that I'm taking that are not causing me joy and happiness and peace and serenity and
mm,
amplifying my life, but they end up stealing and robbing my joy and sanity and my sleep and a lot
mm,
of other valuable things such as relationships, reputations. Depends on what severity and to what behavior somebody's partaking in. And my thing is like when I hear someone say I've overcome addiction and they start propagating that there's like a cure or a solution and as if they've achieved it, I start to get real suspect real quick. That's just me
mm,
and my personal viewpoint of what's going on here. And I've kind of embodied this thing in myself, and that's I can only speak from my own um, my own perspective and how I see things. So please
mm.
do
Yeah,
my
yeah,
best to say like I and use I terminologies. It's never me dictating or asserting as if you are the same as me or whatever. So
right.
so I see it as this is going to be a lifelong thing for me to have healthy relationships with certain bodily systems and compulsions in this society that I grow up in.
Mm,
Addiction, however, hold on. What did we say? Dependency and
mm,
compulsive bio. I'll call it compulsive biological responses that are chemical in nature, whether that's a behavior or whether that's consuming chemicals directly. It's all a
mm,
dopaminergic system that we should become familiarized with, I think. And
mm,
my, I preach awareness. Awareness just gives me a stance to recognize what's going on, and from there I can move forward in a way that gives me a chance at a dignified, self-respectful life that is worth living. And that being
mm,
said, so I also will preach, or excuse me, I also will say that for my journey, there is no perfection. Like
right.
I don't identify with people saying like I said, I've achieved and I've perfected anything. I have, and I like how you've introduced yourself in the beginning here. with your people, it seems like you're right along the path of what I would recommend for people that I work with in my circles in my area here. So I always recommend, like you said, no cold turkey unless you're really feeling up for it. But like it depends what you're coming off of too. But like there's always a they say like progress, not perfection, in a lot of these circles, and that's like a code I live by. So
Mm.
whether that's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, whether that's 3 steps forward, 5 steps back, ultimately it comes down to like me being honest with myself, which is massive. And I think that's the disconnect that happens with most people, because as you'll hear in a minute, and I also was going to write stuff down to try to keep my mind in chronological order, and I didn't get a chance. So I'll probably be bouncing around. It's all off the top of the head with this stuff. So I ask you all to
It's
bear
all
with
good.
me as that goes.
It's all
But
good. I'm proud of you for that, man, because you had a whole spiel of how you was going to do it, and you just threw it all out the window. I love that.
yeah, so like that whole progress, not perfection thing is massive in my opinion. But it's the honesty thing.
Mm.
You know, I grew up, so I had addictions that led me to, and this is how powerful it can be. I'll use somebody that I could recognize drinking coffee every day, right? And then they go watch their favorite television show, then they scroll through their social media app or whatever. And I would, you know and I had, um so first of all, I'll say I'm like 5 years off of intravenous heroin use, cocaine use, putting it all directly into my veins.
Mm.
Had And then since that, I start with that, and then there was like alcohol that I was using when I got out of treatment. I got Section 35 myself in Massachusetts, where I live,
Mm.
which I live in one of the only 2 states, which is Florida is the other one, that have this thing called Section 35, where I don't have to have a criminal case, but if someone in my family, or if I am in a situation, I can be seen by a mental health professional, that if they deem me a threat to society or myself, then they basically put I went through the jail side of things, but there are other avenues to get somebody basically locked up against their will and force them through treatment for 45 to 90 days. So
Wow.
I got arrested with 5 packs of heroin, which is 500 bags. It was all for personal use. I was literally on my deathbed at that point. And it just came to a point, and if I'm living that lifestyle, then you got everyone else around like pointing at me saying, you clearly have a problem. But I'm trying to, why I want to share my story, because I'm trying to connect, in just the mentality I had is I didn't see I had a problem at all. I didn't like I literally, all my biological systems ran around these substances, putting them in my body. If I didn't get them in my body within a certain amount of hours, depending on the chemistry involved, like my bowels just started releasing, like where I was sitting. I'd be vomiting, I'd be gagging, I'd be severely dehydrated. There would be no sleep if I didn't have it. It would be tossing and turning in torment. And so to that extreme, you think that I'd be able to sit down with myself, look myself in the mirror and say like, all right, man, this is severe. Uh, your life could end at any moment. There's not any quality of life here. Like, do you see a future for yourself? A lot of times I didn't pay attention of how old I was, if I had goals. I didn't care about relationships. I didn't care about, what I ate. I didn't care if I ate, because I didn't need to eat. All I needed was drugs in my body, and then the eating came after. And so this was I did have some clean time before that. So like, and I've been using cannabis, alcohol since real young, 12 years old, and started partying in my culture at school and whatnot. And it just progressed to psychedelics, cocaine, out at parties, whatever I could do. I grew up in music festival scenes. I don't know if anyone's ever been to one of those or know anything about those. This bolt on my arm is a Grateful Dead bolt, which is like, that's the scene I was involved in. I literally got introduced to that type of music, jam band scenes, and the culture that was surrounded by traveling to music festivals every weekend 4 days, 4 days out of 7, I was traveling here, there, and everywhere all around the country to see music and to party and to connect with people from all over the country, which I made a lot of friends, and
Mm.
I did
Hmm.
make some friends like that I still talk to this day. And I still go to them to this day, but I do it sober and I do it with my diet. And that took me a while to feel comfortable doing that. But everyone else around, and I leave usually at dark, or I don't go immerse myself in socializing after dark, because that's when it gets real weird. Everybody's all sorts of intoxicated on whatever they got going
Yeah,
on. And nowadays, I don't put myself in that because it's just unnecessary. But I do like to
yeah.
go see music.
It is.
I do like.
It is
Sorry,
pretty
go ahead.
weird. No, I didn't want to interrupt, but it is pretty weird. Um, just recently, I've been to Vegas several times before, but every time I went, like you said, I was intoxicated, I was high, and usually couldn't remember all the stuff that I was really going through. But recently, me and wifey went completely sober, and it was the strangest experience. But we still had fun. It was like everybody else was zombies except for us. Like really, that's the way it felt, because we went sober, and it was just everybody was having a crazy party, and we just could see all that. We were still having fun with just us, but it wasn't the same experience at all. So I know exactly what you're talking about. But go ahead, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're all good. Please, anytime you want to add to it, it's helpful. And so yeah, and I noticed too, like when I do enter these scenes sober now, and somebody passes me a whatever it may be, and I'm just like, no, thanks, I'm all good. And then they'll do it again 5 minutes later, and they're like, oh
Yeah.
shit, well, what's up, like why? And I'm just like, I'll explain, and then they feel I could see it in their actions and in their behavior that I made them uncomfortable, and they were already uncomfortable because they knew there was, whether you call it an aura or just like just your energy that you're giving off when
Yeah.
you're in a certain state, and especially if you're on all fruit or if you're raw eating or something like that, you're just going to naturally give off a certain different vibe to most people than what they're used to. So a lot of
Mm.
times I notice, that's where my relationships still suffer to this day, because not many people are able to hang around me with what I will tolerate, what I won't tolerate, the types of discussions I'll have or won't have, the type of entertainment I'm into or not into. Like it's like toxic, toxic or toxicity isn't just from food. Like food accumulates in the material sense, but there's spiritual toxicity. What I watch, what I enter
Mm.
my, what I find enjoyable to watch. If I'm watching like murder mystery shows on the regular and watching the news and all this other stuff, like I'm literally
The news is
toxifying.
probably the most toxic to the brain. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, and the brain is something that, you know, I had to remind myself at certain points throughout my journey that I have a brain. I am not my brain. I have a mind. I am not my mind. Whatever I have to do to remind myself that this thing is like a supercomputer that allows me to have this life experience, but ultimately whatever I am is something that's sitting behind in that, or something beyond what I can
Woo.
even comprehend in words. So like
Woo.
if I'm feeling a certain way, like if I'm perceiving life from a certain way, like right now I'll notice when people drink alcohol, because I'm almost at the end of July, I'll be 2 years without alcohol. Um, and that was, I was just about to mention, now after the coming out of treatment, I did 45 days, section 35, and they have like home plans. I made up some bullshit home plan to go to Salvation Army in the same city that I was in through the jail systems. And as soon as your home plan was approved, you could leave. As soon as they dropped you off, your section was done. There was no more held against my will thing. So I went,
Mm.
and I had my dogs with my friend, and I wasn't sure what condition they were in throughout the whole 45 days, if they were doing all right. So that's what I told myself, to get my dogs and get to the next step. Um,
Huh.
so like I ended up doing that, booking, going to get my dogs, and I found she was fine. But then I found myself in a situation where I was like, all right, well, I don't know where I'm going. I don't have family that's going to let me live with them. They already said I have to, find some other option. whether that's get my own place or continue treatment somewhere. And, I went around asking, but nope, nobody's, it's tough. I totally understand, because when people come to me in that situation now and they're going through that and they ask if they can live with me or come hang out with me or be around me, I literally have to be like, you're welcome anywhere near me and around me once you go get help, because you obviously don't got it going on. And so
Hmm.
that's the difference between societally accepted addiction or dependencies and behaviors and the extreme ones, right? And I mentioned this to you the other night in our discussion, is like, that's why the societally acceptable and enforced ones, or the ones like we were talking coffee or social media or binge watching Netflix or watching
Yeah.
drama, murder mysteries, or whatever it may be, that
As long as it works for them. Yeah.
well, this is the power of it. Like, I'm trying to explain that I was injecting cocaine and heroin into my veins and dying, and I still had this idea that I'm not addicted to anything. I don't know what's going on. Like, everybody keeps telling me I need to go get help. I'm like, they need to go get help. Like, what are they even talking about? Like, and that, because
Hmm.
I was so immersed in, because a normal hit of dopamine is like 30 units. Like, if I do meth or something, it's like something like 6,000 units of dopamine or something like that. If I like do heroin, it's something like 1,500 units of dopamine. Like, it's
Wow.
astronomical flooding of these dopaminergic systems on a regular basis that are like, you can only
Yeah. You
imagine.
could have died at any time.
Like, it's just so, your brain is so saturated in those feelings, in the, the chemistry that's involved in that use withdrawal, uh that it's obviously more noticeable than somebody who's drinking the coffee, you know once a day, instead of, well, I had 3 cups yesterday, I'm going to have 2 cups today, and then I found myself having a third anyways. I'm lacking that energy. Or like, I told myself I was, whatever. So people are addicted to sex, porn, all that stuff. Like, they like, it's
Oh
crazy
yeah.
too. You would think that, and this is, as men do, this blows my mind, because I've been around all sorts of different recovery circles, and I went to this church one time because I was just open to whatever, and this church group was meeting, and I swear to God, there was like 20 guys in there. I was like one of two drug addicts there. The rest of the people there were because they were ruining their relationships with porn use. Their girlfriends were about to leave them.
Wow.
None of their family members would fuck with them. They were losing. They like could not even be attracted to their partner because of how the porn was affecting their biological systems and those same dopaminergic systems, and now whatever other chemistry is involved. So
That's
like,
wild, bro. That's
and a lot
wild.
this is held in the back usually. Nobody's going to go out in the open and say I'm struggling with porn or whatever. Like,
Right.
I
Right.
can't relate to that necessarily, or like some of the like sex or gambling or any of that stuff. I was never addicted to it. Like, I was able to control my behavior around that, but it was always just the drug use, because it was instant, and whatever else that I found to suit my needs. And it's always with a dependency of some sort. These behaviors we find and we use served a purpose at one point. They were good for us at one point. We found relief, whether that's from trauma,
Mhm.
insecurities,
That's
emotional
usually where it
distress,
comes from.
problems with the family, lack of purpose, and I'm just going to boil it all down to what dependency is, this one doctor says it perfectly. He says, all dependency is, and I'm using that word instead of the other word, is
Thank you.
it is a lack of connection. So the opposite of dependency is connection. And then, so
Mhm.
that's what I want to bring up right now, actually, is what do you feel when you hear the word connection, like you personally, like, because this is a deep thing right here. Just that one word, connection. What does that mean to you?
When I hear connection, I don't think outside of myself. I think because I'm always having conversations with my a higher part of myself. Okay, and that is connection to me. When I'm cut off from that, I'm living in my lower self. I'm living in my ego. I'm going back to old habits and things like that. So when I speak of connection, um, I'm thinking I'm connected to the Most High.
Yeah.
to an
Okay.
energy, a force out there that is guiding me along.
Yeah. Facts. Because
That's what I
that is.
think.
But now, what about connection to your wife there?
Now I think that's a little different because we're walking two separate journeys. But
What about connection to your mother? What about
for
connection
sure.
to the person at the grocery store? What about connection to my purpose? Like when I wake up in the morning, what is the point of going about my routines and like where's my focus? Like, you ever have those? This is what always bothered me, man. I used to literally shoot coke and go walk around and go try to talk to people on the street and just say, "Hey, how are you?" and look them in the eyes, say, "How's it going today?" And in New England, where I'm from, people don't do that shit. Don't Nobody talks to one another. You keep your head down. You
Yeah,
look down at
I
the
know
ground. You don't make eye
that.
contact. You move forward. Like when I
Yeah,
lived out in California, in NorCal, that was a little different. Like people usually greeted one another. A lot of times, even with like a hug or a happy smile. Like I was living out in Humboldt County. That's a totally different
yeah.
animal there. But
I can relate to those. I can relate to everything you just said because we just moved from the New England area. And it was wild like that at first. A lot of people didn't. But see, one thing that's important to me, I carry my energy everywhere I go. So even if it's bad energy, I'm going to transmute that energy straight up. Or it's not going to be around me. That's what I've decided a long time ago. Even when we came out here to Atlanta, we went to the store the first day, and you try to get help from somebody out here, they're like, please, they'll walk right past you. I don't know if it's just the lack of customer service or not a lot of people that care or complain, but the customer service seems to be horrible overall. And wifey was really upset about it the first day. She was like, man, the people here is this. And I say, listen, you got to carry your own vibration. And sure enough, now it's like people know us where we go. They smile, they say hello because we had to initiate that. You know what I'm saying? After seeing people over and over and over again. And the second part is we went to Humboldt County. And let me tell you, Humboldt County, like you said, it's different out there. Everybody is happy, jogging. You know what I'm saying? It's just a whole different scene. Everybody, they want to speak to you. They're smiling all the time. It was different, but we went out to Humboldt County for a different experience. You already know they have the best marijuana uh,
bro, I could totally
anywhere that I've
visualize
ever tried. So
you
it
think
was a different experience.
yeah, you think farming out here was big. You should I'll tell you some photos of the dog I had at the time sitting at the base of one of the plants like a tree. Like she was literally like laying in one of the 500-gallon pots, and it was like everybody does it around, like literally everybody. So it was just and
Oh yeah,
whether
and it's
it was
clean too. Like it's not like a dirt. I can't explain it, but yeah. So sorry. Go ahead. I didn't want to cut off your point that you were making right there.
well, no,
Peace to everybody coming in. Hold on one sec. Peace to everybody coming in the building. My man Swerve, who's going to be my next guest. He's from back home. He's from the Berg. Peace to Swerve. Alice Scott. Her posts are always so motivational. They always make me. She got one of those voices and one of those laughs and smiles that make you want to smile, makes you want to laugh. So when you see it early in the morning, you're like, it's very contagious. And my man Curtis, Joey, and my man Nick, Irie, for everybody coming in, I appreciate you guys being in here with us. Sorry, I just wanted to acknowledge that. But
yeah,
continue. You were making a great point about connection. Sorry.
no, yeah, peace to everybody coming in. I can't really see a list or anything, but much love and respect to wherever you're at in your journey. And I'm just sharing my story, which is I've just been surrounded by so many I get so distracted in society and going about I call people muggles that have not been through similar situations as me because they literally can't even you know we can't even speak the same language a lot of times or whatever, but like all y'all who are here um attempting to change your behavior, uh you I have a strong feeling people can relate to how extreme my case can be, and I can tie it to diet because until you start to change these behaviors and have the willingness to even acknowledge and be honest with myself that there is a problem here, that I'm causing suffering for myself, no one else is, whether somebody hurt me emotionally or whether they're, whatever the case may be, like at the end of the day, like I'm responsible for my emotions, how I like you worded it perfectly. And that's the elevated state, right? When someone else can, when that lack of connection, when people are miserable and rude and they barely look you in the eyes and you feel like, I could feel like I'm alone and nobody cares and everybody's just messed up or whatever. But like at the end of the day, you talk about being connected to the Most High, like I can bring that outside of me, and if anyone else can't reciprocate it or play along in it, you're making an impression on that other human being that maybe and usually is going through their own thing and they're in their own um, place of
Yeah.
insecurity, of loneliness, of discontent, of consumption, overconsumption. So like that connection thing for me was a lack of genuine human interaction and honest relationships with one another. Like my family
Mm.
is a great. I'm Italian and Polish. We have big family get-togethers. My grandparents were amazing, so good, such good of people, and they raised all of us really well. And it's amazing to see the lack or just the degeneration in prioritizing family and connection and communication and honesty just in between my grandfather's generation and the generation below. Like society got at people. They literally
Yeah.
like got
I was going.
into the nuclear
Yeah.
family, and they got everybody on different planes of existence, and everybody's cool with just kind of like meeting and gathering when it's like mandatory. But other than that, like when I go to a family function now, I like barely even know my own family is how I feel. Like nobody
Wow.
reaches out. On 5 years, I just celebrated 5 years off of narcotics, and like it's kind of hurtful at times, but at the same time, like I can recognize their hurt, right?
I
And
think that's worth clapping for, man. That's huge. Sorry.
So,
Go ahead.
I'm looking for that connection from family, friends, whatever, for somebody to reach out even once in a while. Hey, how you doing? What's up? And I'll call, I'll be like, yo, what's going on? You want to get food sometime? Like, I'm busy, but maybe next weekend, I'm like, at first I was hurt or whatever, but like, I'm recognizing that they're still drinking alcohol. They're still eating the diet they're eating.
Mm.
Every time I'm in their presence, I make everyone uncomfortable because like I told you earlier, like I don't go around preaching all this stuff. But when I hear like a family member say, oh, I just had kidney stones. We just had this procedure. And, it's that fake smile into your face vibe that I was talking about, that lack of connection. When another family member will say, put their hand on their shoulder and like offer them genuine concern, but at the same time say like, oh, like, how did your procedure go or whatever? Like, and you could tell like, and I'll sit there and be like, hey, there's solutions to this stuff, which I've presented to them before. I've tried giving them references to other information out there that they can do their own research. And if people aren't ready to face this addiction game, meaning change their behavior and be willing to do so and face challenges and the withdrawals that may come from coming off these foods, whether that's cakes, cookies, sugars, um, pizzas, French fries, burgers, whatever people are consuming, like that's why I'm telling my story, because like when I share what withdrawal was like coming off of, um, you know, being in a jail cell with no medically assisted treatment, tap water out the sink that I had to puddle and whatever, like they gave you dehydrating food. Like there was no comfort involved in that stuff. So like when someone was like, oh, well, when someone's like, oh, I'm doing a watermelon challenge and I've been eating pizza for the last, 6 years and all this other stuff, I'm like, me personally, I'm just like, easy. You know what I'm saying? Like, easy.
Yeah.
That's like me coming off of freaking the runs I was on and then being like, all right, well, I'm just gonna go into it. It's like,
Yeah.
go into it and then come back, because I can explain to you how uncomfortable it is. But I think that's what turns a lot of people off, is like, that was just way too intense. I felt like garbage. I did watermelon for a week and I was just weak. I was shaking. I had headaches. I couldn't see straight. And I want to just remind people, like, those are detoxification symptoms, right?
Thank you.
That's something
Thank you.
that it's not like, oh, the fruit's bad for me. Maybe it's not just for me. It's like, I'm releasing a lot of waste fast and it's all going through my bloodstream and there's a lot of discomfort in it and I got to purge it out, whether that's vomiting, diarrhea, whatever it may be. And some people may have good experiences with it, going straight to fruit after all the processed foods or whatever. But I like how you said, um, baby steps. Do the steamed vegetables first. Try to get protein and some all the processed shit out of your diet. Try to get the dairy. Let's start there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once your
Yeah.
body assimilates stuff, it removes some waste. It starts to get used to just the steamed vegetables and stuff. All right, let's throw a salad in there. You know what I'm saying? Like, then
Yeah.
we get raw. We'll take a piece of broccoli and just munch on it. Taste how disgusting that raw piece of broccoli with no salt, no dressing, no
Hmm.
whatever. Feel it. It's gross. But then just
Right.
do it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then it's like, you get to the point where it's like, I love munching on raw broccoli. It's like, because now I'm used to it and my body's assimilated it, and it's a different experience now. And
Mhm.
that only comes over time. So that's just how I treat when the people I'm working with in my community. I recommend
Mm.
those aspects of this
Yes,
journey.
absolutely.
Um,
Allow yourself to feel it, and allow that space. A lot of people be like, I know you definitely got to talk positive to yourself, and I know you got to talk up all the time. But I try to tell people, don't paint yourselves into a corner and say, I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going to do that again. You know what I'm saying? Because what happens is when the time you do it, you feel miserable. You feel terrible. And then you're telling thousands of your cells in your body that you messed up and you're miserable. And so what do? You go back to the old, every time you feel miserable, you go back to what used to, and then you go back to the comfort foods, right? Well, I already messed up, so I might as well, eat a hamburger. I might as well do this. I might as well eat a cheeseburger. I might as well do this. You know what I'm saying? Instead of saying, you know what? So what? I'm going back at it again the next day. And that's how some of the people in my group have been able to overcome, because they're not hard on themselves. They know where they messed up. I always try to tell them to trace back the feeling, like you said. It's always some deep trauma, or it's always something that they went through that they tied themselves to. It's usually anger. Anger, when somebody pisses somebody off, that's usually when they fall back to the default setting, which is standard American diet, or in a lot of people's case, drugs. You know what I'm saying? That takes the pain away. You know what I'm saying? So you hit the nail on the head with that one, family.
well, so did you. Like, this is why, I need to have this discussion and needs to get out there, because like this is the same stuff that happens in AA meetings and recovery meetings that I go to, of like 3 or 4 different kinds. Like, you get the people coming back in, and what are the emotions when you fell off the wagon, or you stopped doing what you put yourself on that for? And there's shame, guilt, remorse, all these feelings that it's like, man, how did I do that? I'm that weak. Are you kidding me? I was on a good
Right,
path. Now I put that stuff back in my body. Now I'm hurting again. Like you said, there's
right,
either, and then there are those people that relapse and they go out for another 5 years, 10 years, come back crawling on their hands and knees because they're lucky enough to not die out there. But like,
right.
same game. It's like I either go back into the stuff, or I have this ability to be honest with myself, and you said face the reality of what's going on here. And with food, for me, it's a little different. Like, I did 120 days of like all raw fruit recently, which was like the third or fourth time I did that within the 5 years, to
Wow.
similar or whatever. But like, and then I go, all right, well, I'm gonna have some sweet potatoes or something. Like, all right, I love mushrooms. I grew lion's mane. Actually, I still do lion's mane. I have reishi, chaga, turkey tails. I'm into foraging, a whole bunch of other stuff. But that's like, so mushrooms for me are gonna be cooked a lot of times, and I'm gonna use like a little hot sauce, and I'm gonna use salts and some coconut oil and things like that. That
Mm,
even that stuff, I can feel my body being like craving more of it or whatever. So like
mhm.
I've introduced it.
Yo, I think Nick jumped off. We're gonna give him a couple of minutes to be able to come back in. But man, he was spilling, right? He was spilling, guys. Um, Peace to everybody coming in. If you're coming in, share this live to somebody that you think. And I know a lot of you guys out there, especially you guys in the watermelon washout, especially you guys in the lifestyle challenge. You know a lot of people dealing with these same similar situations. maybe not heavy drug use, but a lot of people are. A lot of people are. I talk to people all the time um, who they want to change what they eat, but they're on much heavier, more powerful drugs, and it's something that they need to deal with before they even begin to try to change something that they eat. I know you guys heard Nick say, uh, when he was trying to get off, it wasn't a good thing. He said, what exactly did he say? Um, he said you had to get rid of. Oh, there he goes. Hold on. Oh no, Nick, if you're there, you gotta ask for another request to jump in. Just hit that same link that I had, and you can jump right back in. But does anybody have any questions for Nick? Because we've got about 15 more minutes here. Does anybody have any questions for Nick? Anything at all? And then I will ask him while he's on this platform. Um, it is a great interview, man. Peace, Joe. Because I have a lot of people that are dealing with a lot of heavy things, but a lot of people trying to lose weight, a lot of people trying to change what they eat. But man, when you're on facts, no drug is more powerful than a standard American diet. I believe that's the gateway to all of them. Tell you the truth, uh, and there's proof out there. Those are chemical substances as well, right? That's not we're not eating food anymore. Those are drugs. You know what I'm saying? They just slide them in things that are a little bit more tastier, right? And they make it socially acceptable, which Nick was saying. Uh, they make those socially acceptable. You put them in everything, and all those other ones lead to that. Whenever you're doing that, whenever you're whenever you're doing porn, watching porn, and Netflix, addicted to all that stuff, food comes right along with it. It comes right in there with it. Order a pizza, ads pop up. I'm sure there'll be an ad to pop up on here and say, "Hey, two large pizzas for $10," or Kentucky Fried Chicken or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You see all the ads pop up. So you're definitely right about that, Cam. I appreciate you sharing that, Joe Tom. Yeah, he's spitting real fast. And I've been hearing this story for a while, and that's why I was like, man, I gotta have this guy on. Um, he was just having troubles connecting with a few people in the community, which is fine because I had that too before. And that was just I didn't have a social media up till 10 years ago. Like before that, I was just totally against it, which is weird because I taught computers. But I was in a love hate relationship. What I had on my last live, if you guys missed my last live, when you're becoming spiritual, you're against everything that we're doing. On social media, talking to people, connecting with people, trying to get your numbers up, your views up, and all that stuff. I didn't care about none of that stuff. I didn't care about money. I didn't care about none of that stuff. I just wanted to be. I wanted to make myself uh, knowledgeable. I was addicted to information. That information, it made me feel powerful. Okay. I wonder if you can even be addicted to information. I don't know. But if there was, I was addicted to information. I was addicted to reading books to empower myself, to become more spiritual. Now I'm on that. Uh, I feel so great, and I feel so great spiritually that in order for me to continue to do it, I have to learn the business side of it. I've been letting my business slip for so long because I wanted to continue to engage spiritually, and and I didn't feel like you could do that under the guidelines of the matrix with AI and doing all this stuff. So now I'm evolving, okay, and I feel like I can step into the matrix and be Neo. You know what I'm saying? If you guys know what I'm talking about. Nick is
Can you hear me?
back. Yes, sir. What's going on, family?
Yeah.
My bad. I don't know what happened.
No, that's why I had my other phone charging because the same shit happened last time where it just like cut me out, wouldn't let me come back on. So I just like am now using the Wi-Fi again rather than the 5G, whatever that.
Yeah,
That's me. That's
you
why
was
me and
prepared.
technology don't.
See, yeah, yeah, you was
Yeah,
prepared, man. But it's all good, man. Well, I was just talking about that. I was just talking about my balance. I don't like to say. I shouldn't say love hate. It was my balance that I needed because I actually taught this stuff. I taught computer classes. I taught elementary kids how to code. You know what I'm saying? So I was really, really into it where I had to dive into it, and that's part of what I did. That's I guess that's an addictive personality because when I decided I'm going to do something and I got my mind on it, I actually dive deep into it, the rabbit hole. I don't care what it is. If it's a conspiracy theory, I'm diving in head first. It was whatever it was, I was diving right into it. But I feel like I'm more well balanced now, and my business is doing well. I can engage a lot more with people. I had a non-trust factor for a while when I first started my business. There was a couple people that knew business very well, and they tried to throw me the okey doke a couple times. You know what I mean? Even just starting out when I was just selling tea, I'm like, dang, I just got to watch who I trust. You know what I'm saying? And there was people that was connecting to me long enough just to learn my information. Next thing you know, they unfriend me. They're on another platform teaching the same stuff that I was teaching. So I was non-trust for a long time. Like, nah, man, I'm not trusting nobody. So that's kind of like how I was with you when you first came on. I still had that guard up. Like, yeah, man, just go to my website or whatever, whatever. And you let me know pretty quickly. Like, nah, I'm not here for that. I'm just trying to connect. You know what I'm saying? So I thought that was really dope. The way you reached out to me and how sincere
well,
and
what did
honest
I
that
ask
you
you?
were.
What was the one of
What
the
was that?
first things I asked you? I said I've been reaching out to a lot of people in these circles, and I was like, I need to build trust with someone. And I was like, you seem
Yeah,
like a trustworthy person. That was literally how I approached you, because I
it's
can't,
true.
like you just said, bro. I just went through that like three different times with businesses and stuff, like
Mm,
especially with like the mushroom cultivation stuff. Like somebody tried to learn what I was doing and doing the farmers markets and stuff. And I was not about it because I didn't, I wasn't, I'm like, if you want to learn, there's plenty of information out there. Go figure it out. Cause there's so many learning curves with getting yourself established with it. And I figured out my own way. And they basically just kind of same deal. Like, got information to whatever was necessary, learned the craft. And then it's like, okay, you've served your purpose and role, even though
right,
we were in agreement that,
right,
this was about more than business. Like I'm about community and trying to form connection to get land to create food security and all that stuff. So
right.
yeah,
Beautiful,
you seem
beautiful.
like a trustworthy person, so that's what I was going to build with you.
Yeah,
But where did I leave off?
yeah.
Like, what do you remember what I was saying?
I'm not sure where you dove off at because I started talking too. But there's a lot of people in here, man, that are loving it. They're loving the conversation, and they can relate, man. There's a couple people in here that said they came from that same situation, and they said you were spitting facts. You know what I'm saying? So so I think we were talking about the correlation uh, between the food and the substances. Um, I'm not sure.
I
I'm not
remember doing
sure if anybody in
connection.
the chat. Yeah, we
Let's
did
just
connection.
let's just dive back into it. Let's just
Yeah, go
dive back
ahead.
into it, and we'll figure it out.
Yes,
So like,
go ahead.
I guess that connection thing is something that has to be um figured out, because like when I have incentive um, to move forward in a way that's healthy for me, and it doesn't feel like it's a chore, or it doesn't feel like I'm, you know, rubbing my fingernails on the chalkboard or something. Like that's how it was for me at first coming off drugs. It was like, man, it's like I don't want to do any of this life stuff. Like I want to go back to what was making me feel good, even though it was destroying me and had me on my deathbed or whatever. So like, um, so like with these behaviors, we'll just say food or whatever it may be, like it's like I'm that awareness that I was talking about earlier is crucial. So like, well, I'll use the example of coming off dope, like heroin, is what it's called. So like when I was coming off heroin, there was information presented to me in treatment that there's withdrawal symptoms, which I know what that was. And then I started to feel better and eat food again without throwing it up everywhere. And I was not like breaking my back from convulsing on the jail cell and like vomiting everywhere all over myself, and then changing my clothes and then putting new clothes back on and then vomiting all over myself again, and then sweating so much. The sweating, the
Mm.
sweating, the sweating, drenched, clothes drenched in sweat, shaking,
Yeah.
begging for
How was your
something.
body trying to get that stuff out of your system?
Yeah, I mean the damage I was doing to it and the dependency, that's a whole other level of dependency with that stuff. Opiates in general are, and I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
say I was gonna become a heroin addict. I was just partying, smoking weed and stuff. And I look at it like the pharmaceutical company kind of butchered my generation. I was a '90s kid, and the Oxycontins that came out were like,
Oh yeah.
oh hey, I'm, no, nobody really had an idea that with Percocet, Roxy's, Oxys, like all this stuff, that I was actually a dope head. Like it was just something that was for pain relief, made me feel good. And
Right.
pretty soon I ran into this situation where somebody said, oh man, it's the same thing. Cause I was looking for something. I was like, you don't have any oxys? He's like, no, I have a bag of dope or whatever. And I was like, so I did it. And I remember being angry because I was angry because it started to all sink in, and it all started to sink in and then I knew I already had a pill habit, and I already knew that if this is the same thing, and then it all just started sinking in like shit, I'm in too deep at this point. Like I didn't even realize
Mm.
what I was doing. So it just kind of progressed, the progression they call it or whatever. And
Mm.
once you're dependent on it, once I was dependent on it, like the withdrawals to come off of it is astronomical. So I feel like that's with these fast foods, these standard American diets, very similar, because I didn't know that, when I was eating Captain Crunch and Crunch Berries and Tricks and for breakfast when I was little, pouring, milk, pasteurized milk all up in that, having it for breakfast going off
Mm.
to school, eating my chicken sandwich from the lunch, the lunch room or whatever, and coming home to
Right.
like, meat and mashed potatoes or whatever. But I'd always remember having this uncomfortable feeling after I ate dinner where my scalp would start burning. Like
Mm.
it would be literally red and burning and like scabs and bleeding because I'd be itching it so much, and I'd be
Mm.
laying on my stomach because I'd have gastro upset. And my mom would just tell, and she said, and I talked to my uncles and people, and they said that when they were younger, that stuff used to happen to them, and their parents would say the same thing: go lay down on your stomach, make some tea, we'll put some
Mm.
olive oil. My mom put olive oil in my scalp after dinner and rub it in my hair because I was like sitting there like crying for, and this happened
Wow.
often. So that just
Wow.
shows these acids, right, that are trying to come out of our body. So like
Mm.
to the point where it's bleeding and creating, burning when it's coming out of me. Whether that's eczema, whether that's I used to have tons of acne. I used to be so insecure when I was younger because I'd have acne to be coming out, and there would be the fluid that would come out of it wasn't always like I thought, zits should be. Like I would pop it and then it would leak out this clear fluid, but then that clear fluid would cause a giant scab, like it was like burning my flesh, like. So
Yeah.
like I look back now being like, that's how severe these acidic buildups are inside of our body. Like,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's happening on the inside of me, right? So if
Yeah.
I'm aware of that, like now I'm aware of it, if I could go back to my younger self, we go towards the solutions of things because we don't need to suffer. It's unnecessary to suffer like that if there's a solution.
Unnecessary.
So the same thing with coming off drugs. It was like when I finally got over the withdrawal aspect of it in treatment, I got reminded because I was aware of it, but there's a such thing called post-acute withdrawal symptoms. And for heroin, it was, I believe, 2.5 to 3 years of post-acute withdrawal symptoms, which were not anything as bad as the initial withdrawal symptoms, but that awareness for
Mm.
when I was going out and I was trying to have relationships again, and I was going about society, getting a job again, and I was like exercising again and eating because regaining the ability to eat and do all these things. I would notice like all these like emotional reactivities and depression and compulsion and all this strange stuff that was happening, but I would just tell myself, like, as I'm reacting emotionally to something small, I'm like, I would be
Mm.
like, oh, well, that's not me. That'll get better. That's my brain still recalibrating. So it's not worth
Mm.
going out to use drugs and go back to what makes me feel comfortable, because
Right.
every day I get away from what's causing me these symptoms is another
Right.
day closer to experiencing relief from these
Right.
symptoms. And like I
And
said earlier, like,
what
go
was
ahead.
the kind of replacement for heroin? Was is this a boxing or something? So what was it? Because they give you
So,
something, right?
like I said to you on the last meeting, like, I'm already, by reaching 5 years off of intravenous, especially, but I think they
Hmm.
classify as all opiate use. I'm pretty sure by reaching 5 years without it, I'm already in like a less than 1% of the population of people that have gone to the dependency level that happened. So I already like hit the lottery on top of hit the lottery on top of hit the lottery with being sent to Section 35 against my will, which was in one of the only two states in the entire however many states. Like, it's absolutely like the the percentile category that I'm in, because I would have not been able to have the willpower on my own with that. I already knew it. I've tried my best
Mm.
in the past. It would always have to be I get
Wow.
arrested and get locked up against my will, where I would start to get
That's a
my
wild
mind.
situation.
So yeah, I lucked out by getting in there around 2 weeks. It started to happen when I got over the withdrawal symptoms. And in Section 35, nobody's there on their own will. So I'm surrounded by 92 in a pod, all in jail jumpsuits or whatever. No visits, no commissary, no nothing. And not with like 95 of some of the most mentally sick substance abusers in the state, all being sectioned. And what I noticed is that everyone, but it ended up being me and two other people. Everyone, what they did was gathered together after the forced meetings and classes or whatever. They would sit down and they would reinforce their behavior, and they were imagining and reconcocting going out there and taking another hit of crack, or yeah, we're gonna get out there and do this. Another person's like, and I would go like talk to the drug dealers because they were from the block I used to go to, and they'd be like, because they're addicted to selling drugs, just like, that's another addiction for
Yeah,
people, making money
it
off selling
is.
drugs. The lifestyle
It
involved
is.
with,
I was on the other side, so I listened to this is wild.
yeah,
Yeah, I
and we
was.
all and that's the hardest part, because when we sat down and talked to one another, in the unit, like, you could sense like the drug dealers a lot of the times were having a hard time with the fact that, like, well, I was only sniffing coke like once or twice and I never really became dependent on it, but I was. Then they start like, yeah, but I'm addicted to the lifestyle and the money and the fast pace and the being out there till 2 a.m. and putting bands in my
Yeah.
pocket and whatever I go do with it and whatever else. So like, this is all just the same addiction, different windows, and a lot of people are just in there reinforcing what they're gonna do when they get out, which is the same damn thing. I'm gonna get out. Like,
Mm.
my thoughts were literally this, and I shit you not. I literally was. I knew I was in jail against my will, barbed wire fence around me, sectioned against my will, mandatory stay for 45 to 90 days, and I would still have thoughts that I believed, and went to my counselors to use their phone, because I would call my lawyer, and I would be like, my lawyer is gonna get in to see the judge. They're gonna explain that something, and they're gonna whatever the logic was in my head, and they're gonna get me out of here this week sometime. So it's only gonna be sometime in this week, and I'll be back out there doing what I know I'm gonna do. And it was like I
Mm.
was like like thoughts of like crawling up the wall to get out of this place. Like, and then
Mm.
finally I got blessed. Finally, I sat down with myself up on the rec deck out in the where they had the little basketball hoop or whatever. And I sat there and I remember I practiced meditation back when I was in California, when I was clean off of the opiates, but I was still dabbling in this and that, which was here and there. But never, never did I take my recovery as seriously as I have been this time around. But I did practice meditation, and I did do like broth fasts or whatever you want to call them, where I would put vegetables in broth and I would do that for like a week. And this was out in California, and I was like still finding results from it, and doing yoga and all these other things. But the meditation, I remember being intriguing to me, right? So what I did
Mm,
is had a thought. I said, well, first I saw my thoughts instead of me being in them. It just kind of happened. I was in them, participating in my thoughts because that's what I was doing, and I was used to it, and I was reinforcing these behaviors with other people. And then it happened just like, and I said, well, wait a minute, that's a thought. And I said, and I observed that thought, and then I said,
mm,
well, that thought and those thoughts may be sick and I may need to stare at them for a little longer. So I went on the rec deck and I
mm,
started observing what's actually going on inside of me. And then it just
mm.
came to hit me like, and I started crying, crying, crying. And then I realized I was crying because my out in Northern California, what caused me to relapse the last time was this is my first dog. This is now my second and third dog. But since I never had, good connection with other humans, dogs for me have been like this comfort for some reason. So
Mm,
like
mhm,
I always wanted my own dogs. It was Labradors. I love Labs. So like this one was
mhm.
a black lab Onyx, and bro, I shit you not, she's a black lab. And on her year birthday, on October 31st, she got hit by a car sent like 45 feet,
Wow.
literally torn up on the pavement, brains hanging out of her head, whimpering and crying,
Wow.
freaking broken bones, whatever else. And I was 3 hours, bro. I was 3 hours away from the nearest hospital and I was freaking out. I shut down. I lost it. People helped me put her on a yoga mat and threw her in the back of my car. They'd said, start driving, go. So, like, when
Wow.
trauma happened, when trauma happens, we shut down. Like I couldn't even know. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to pick her up. I didn't know what I should do. I was just sitting there losing my shit. Everybody else had to help me. Even then, like beyond what happened when she got put down finally, the look she had, the look she gave me, like that look of like, why is this happening to me? Like scared, terrified, like still haunts me to this day. So like my brain still shuts that shit out, but I can face those memories now. But like
Right.
something like
Right.
that created me to shut down to the point where I went back to, not right away, but a month or two later, I was back doing the same thing. And I didn't realize that's why I was doing what I was doing at that
Mm.
point. And so
Wow.
and that's what I noticed though when I started crying about. I noticed I was crying about the thoughts I was having and the situation I was in. I started to like have awareness that how long I was out there this time, which was about I think like 7 years. I think I did that run for, and the quality of life I lived. And then I looked around and I started to think of like, because before this, I didn't think of like, how old am I even? Like, like I had to
Mm.
sit there and it all just came over like, like, oh shit, like something serious is going on here. Because before that, remember I told you before that I was everything's all good. This is what I do. If I die with a needle in my arm, this is just my choice. This is just part of what the lifestyle I'm living. You can do whatever you want.
Right.
I can do whatever I want. There's nothing wrong with this behavior. And literally,
Mhm.
it just overwhelmed me that there's a serious, serious problem here. And that
Yeah.
moment on that rec deck is why I'm still clean to this day because what happened was nothing that profound. I just literally got honest with myself and said, I'm now going to take this, whatever's going on with me, seriously because I can recognize it to be a massive detriment to anything that I may be able to find good or holy or sacred in this world. And it was like,
Mm.
until I got honest with myself and had that decision, all it was a decision I made, right?
Just a
And then from
decision. Yeah.
there, I hung out with two people. Yeah, two people I hung out with in the rest of that treatment for the rest of the time that I was there. And those two people
Mm.
made a decision within themselves that time.
Mm.
And when we got out of the forced meetings, we looked around and saw everybody reinforcing that behavior and that sick patterns. And we went and we sat out on the rec deck by ourselves, pulled out an AA book, sat there and connected with one another, had a meeting of our own with
Mm.
3 people. Everyone else is going
That's
to
so
these things
dope.
because they have to. They don't have a problem. They don't have
Right.
a problem. There's nothing going on. They're gonna get out. It's not a big deal. But like the us three, for some reason, it just clicked, and we called our thoughts out, and we recognized like this is not good. None of this is good. None of those thoughts
Yeah.
are okay. Now's the time where I'm gonna take this time to save my own life, really. And
That's so
we
dope,
treated it like
man.
that. You could tell when someone takes this shit serious.
Yeah. That's so dope
So
because when I tell people when people ask me what I do, I used to just say I help people discover their rediscover their superpowers, because I'm one of them people that believe that everybody is special in some type of way, uniquely special, and I call that their superpowers. So you know, I encourage them when they learn their superpowers, when they get the knowledge and the knowing of what they're doing, to challenge those superpowers in other situations, that could bring them back down instead of telling them to stay away from them. Because usually what happens is, like you said, uh, they'll overcome something and then they face something that they used to face that they never talked about, and then they go spiraling backwards. You see what I'm saying? So, like you said, you're never truly over it. You're never truly through the addiction. You haven't tried it out. You haven't tried your superpowers against the villains, right? You just found your powers and been practicing them like Spider-Man on top of a rooftop. You haven't really went against Doc Ock or nobody like that. That's what I try to tell them. You have to face those things with your new superpowers to know that you can truly overcome them.
Well, Curtis Love just said it, man. True observation. So like back to what I was saying, like it's an awareness. So say like, say those memories get revisited. Say somebody triggers me, somebody treats me like an asshole. I say hi to somebody, they're not connected with me. I'm angry at my family or whatever. Could like instead of like going back to a behavior that would make it worse, there's an awareness that says like, well, wait a minute, there's that thing again, or there's that feeling again, like identifying emotions. Well, I'm angry right now.
Mm.
Whoa, I can identify anger nowadays. That was hard for me for a
Yes,
while. When I'm acting out of wrath or
those are the
anger,
growth.
I'll just
Yeah,
get lost in it.
those are
I'll
the
get
growth
lost in it. I'll
moments.
start freaking out. So, like,
And that
yeah,
was a
so this
situation where you
awareness.
faced
So
it. You
that's the
faced you faced that villain with your new superpower. That's dope.
yeah. So it's like that progression then so here's my next thing that pops my mind. So then what I faced then was, okay, I know I'm not going to do this anymore, right? But then I get out, right? And literally within 2 weeks, since I was staying at my buddy's, I had my dog, even though he wasn't really that cool with it, until I found another place to get into. Everybody goes down to the lake and has some beers. It was summertime, and like
Mm,
I still see that in other people. Like somebody recently came out of treatment. They had, they left early after like 2 weeks after they were just about to die. And they're asking to go to concerts and they're asking people to go out and, do stuff. And like I look at them
mm,
and I see myself at the time and I'm like, there's still this lack of like, sure, I'm not gonna, do the drugs that were killing me, but like I'm gonna go participate in activities and still consume toxic things that I could start to overuse or depend on these others. It's called substitution. So like I
yeah,
never was a daily drinker. I
yeah.
never still to this day drank daily. I never became physically dependent to alcohol. But what was
Mm.
happening to me is I could have two or three, and I go to an AA meeting and share this, and people think I'm crazy because AA meetings, people are hardcore alcoholics, but like I
Oh
share
yeah,
about
for
drugs.
sure.
People somehow can't relate, and a lot of times they don't even like you to share about drugs at AA meetings. But so this I would share that I would have 2 beers to 3 beers every other week, and then I started having 2 to 3 beers every weekend, once a weekend, and that was bringing me to the same spiritual low, the same depression, the same misery, the same hatred, the same sickness that I had just come out of. But I had to check myself, being like, this is not good for me. This is causing me to be in such a bad state of existence. And people are like, well, that's not being an alcoholic. You really are this and that. And people love putting labels on things. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
that's why this journey with food has opened me up so much more to what's going on here, because it comes
How
back to
did
the
that
decision
start?
I made, the food thing.
Yeah, how did your journey, was it just something that you said you wanted? Because a lot of people come into it when they become spiritual, or when they really get into their spirituality, they're like, it's like you said, it's just something that clicks and be like, I'm not supposed to be eating these animals. I'm not supposed to be doing that. And some people say, some people really have to be going through something really bad, like some type of trauma. A lot of people have to go to the hospital for your doctor to tell you, man, this is really bad. You only got a certain amount of time to live. If you don't fix this, you're going to die. And then some people, they decide that's when they're going to change their life. So where did that start for you?
So, like I said earlier, like if someone had told me that the negative symptoms that I was experiencing with the burning scalp, the acne, the lethargy, um, the waking up needing a coffee, the whatever, if someone told me that was because my diet and this is why, then I'm an intellectual minded person. Like I would listen to them and I would have to challenge whether that's right or wrong and prove it to myself. And if it's right, I would keep doing it. Right. So I heard a doctor and Dr. Morse that would I started watching his content and
Uh huh.
I was pointed into a direction where I was made aware of these simple basic things that we could teach a kindergartner. Like he would pull up like anatomy charts and be like, "Well, these are the teeth of a carnivore. This is what a carnivore looks like when it eats. This is what a carnivore is designed to do. This is an herbivore. This is what an herbivore eats. This is what it's designed to do. This is what a Homo sapien is. This is what it eats. This is what it's designed to do." And
Right,
like
right.
to me, I got angry because I was like, I was raised with pastas, mixing all these different stuff together, the pizzas ordering pizza, Chinese food, all this other stuff. So let's see, like I just like I called him bullshit. I called bullshit basically. I was like, 'cause it was so simple and it was so astronomically obvious that it caused anger inside me. And I'm like, I'm gonna prove all this shit wrong. Like, and I don't, like I said, I have to prove it. I'm not just gonna say he's wrong. I'm gonna say he's
Right,
wrong and then do it and prove it to myself that he's wrong.
right.
And there's no way. And then like I just the more I went down this journey of realizing that, well, shit, man, I'm having a bag of chips by 11 a.m. Like I eat the whole bag. That's after a sausage, egg, and cheese in the morning when I wake up with a coffee. I used to drink 7, 8 cups of coffee throughout the day. When I got out of treatment, I was drinking coffee before I went to bed. That was like my 14th, 15th cup of coffee throughout the day in treatment. Like that's all there was to do. That was the only stimulation. They gave us coffee in jail. Like so everybody just comes off drugs and drinks coffee, but nobody thinks it's a drug. Like and
Mm-hmm.
so like I started to try to just do what this was, but I noticed that I couldn't. And I was like, well, I'm still eating that bag of chips, dude. I'm still having that coffee, even though I'm sitting there having the thought saying like, well, no, Nick, go have the water, go, have a lemon water, go this or that, whatever I was trying to do. And it would just be like, I can't. Like, and then I was like, oh shit, like if I really want to prove this to myself, so it became that's why I preach that steady progress forward because if I was able to change my behavior even with food right away overnight or drugs or whatever, then talk about superpowers, more power to anybody that can do that shit. I personally don't that's not my story. So like what I did do is instead of having that bag of chips at 11 a.m. or I would wake up and I'd have one coffee instead of two. And then in the afternoon, I would have, you know, less coffee, less other stuff. I would still have the bag of chips, but I'd push it back a couple hours. And then I would try to incorporate like a salad or other things in with my burger and whatever else I was still having. And
Mm-hmm.
I did notice that like weaning myself off of drugs, kind of same thing. If I was had the willpower to do that, but when they, say they wean you off with Suboxone or something, um, that's a whole different experience than being thrown in a jail cell with nothing. So
Mm.
there's something to be said about readjusting my body's chemistry and allowing the withdrawals to be minimal and the cravings to be transitioned slowly. But I
Mm.
did notice that it was easier to wake up in the morning and I started to have more energy. And then instead of the coffee, I had, I did the medicinal mushroom thing too, like the chaga and the reishi for me is very helpful. So I started
Mm.
substituting with healthier things. I started moving forward in a way where uh, it just made sense to feel a little bit better every single day. and
The
that's
baby
where that journey.
steps. I love it.
Yeah,
And I and I,
that's where that
and I
journey
wanted
began.
to say here. Okay, and I wanted to say here. I always talk about uh, Dr. Sabi, and I always talk about Dr. Yaki, right? Um, and I talk to other coaches and other herbalists and stuff like that, ones that do online, right? And we all agree that it's much harder to do online because of that reason, what you said right there. Now, Sabi, when you go to Honduras to where his village is, right? You have no choice. You're not going to be running to grab a cheeseburger. You're not going to be there's no place to run to grab a cheeseburger. You're not going to be running to grab some old whatever color or flavor water. There's only water from hot springs. There's only what they provided for you. So the healing, whenever they went there to these clinics, is astronomical. Even the earlier teachers, Arnold Air, when he was throwing those big fruit parties and his fruit clinics, right? When you go there, you didn't have any other choice but to heal. Okay, you didn't have any. There was nobody giving you medications to get you addicted to something else. You basically had to go cold turkey, right? So I can definitely relate to that. When you got tossed in a cell, you didn't have an option basically. You know what I'm saying? So what advice would you give for somebody trying to come off addiction by themselves? Because I do want to add too, because I give tips all the time and I try to help people as much as I can. I'm always listening. I never say no, you're not doing it. You just got to listen. I always listen to their tips, and a lot of people seem to struggle when they have time to themselves. When they keep themselves busy, the ones that are most successful, matter of fact, the ones that who didn't stray at all. I'm not going to say cheat or fall off or fail. The ones that didn't stray at all, there are people that worked a lot, so they didn't have any time to, you know what I'm saying? They had their juice, they had their food for whatever they was going to bring. They didn't have any time to go do other things. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like if you keep yourself busy, you keep your mind busy on positive things, positive habits, it makes it a little bit easier to punch through. Or should I say, it makes it harder to stray. So,
Yeah, I mean
what
that's
advice?
like
What if?
I just had,
Go ahead.
oh, sorry, my connection's a little faulty. Ask me the question again.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give somebody who's at home? Um, who, well, I guess you could phrase this a couple of different ways because a lot of people, some people have kids, some people have their husbands or their spouses or uh, who are just not down with anything they're doing. You know what I'm saying? What advice would you give them to try to stay connected to their journey? If somebody in their household, like say, if you're trying to get off drugs, but your best friend, you live with your best friend, or you live with your girl or your spouse or whatever, and they're still on drugs. You still there? You hear me?
Yeah, I'm still here. It's just choppy. I can hear you that you're asking me to give. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
All right. What I would give for advice is depending on your situation. How much are you struggling? How much is it affecting your life in a negative way? Like I always recommend treatment for people that are going through drug stuff that can't get it together for themselves. Treatment is an amazing option. Like you said, if you went away to a healing um an island like where there's only fruit, like obviously it's going to be a different experience than when you got McDonald's and fast food and conveniences all around every corner or whatever. So to shut off the sensory and the cravings from the outside, because if I'm not to a place that is going to cut me off from having the ability to do that. um So that's what I recommend for people that are really struggling, whether that's food, gambling, anything. Like there is help out there. A lot of this stuff is kind of monotonous and repetitive, but anything to get me into a new environment and away from the same environment, same people, same behaviors, same triggers. Um,
Mm,
you know, so
perfect.
that was helpful, obviously for me because I know that I couldn't do it on my own. I've tried. But there
Mm,
are other avenues. There are support groups out there. Even for food, if I'm addicted to food or if I have eating disorders, there are 12-step fellowships and people that meet regularly, both online and in communities that people can just Google search, that meet and discuss their issues. Because to meet with like-minded people going through similar situations, and you can identify with their story and find some accountability and strength and some experience and hope from somebody that is in the same shoes, or has gone through it. And so I just wanted to say that too, because
man,
if anybody can identify with what I've been talking about, like, hit me up on Messenger. I'm always, I'm very busy, but I'll always give people time, and I will do anything that I can to um, keep sharing what I've been through, because experience, strength, and hope is what, like, AA says, like, when people speak. And every time I hear someone speak, either on a recovery talk, or an AA meeting, or just out at an event or something. I'm just at a music event and I'm able to sit there with somebody else who's sober, that's been through the same stuff as me and grew up in the same culture, and now they're able to go enjoy the music sober and leave at a decent time and get some sleep and eat the proper foods. And it's like, create a new network, create a new dialogue with people, create don't entertain the old behaviors, the old avenues, the old things that would keep me, say, like you said, boredom. That's a huge one. Boredom, complacency. If I'm sitting there with too much time, if I'm just doing nothing but thinking about what I would want to do, thinking about my cravings, trying to watch TV, trying to keep my mind off of, like, oh, well, I just ate, and I know I shouldn't eat more, but I'm going to eat more and I want some more ice cream now, or whatever it may be. It's like,
mm,
you know, um,
perfect, man.
there,
No, that
there's got to be some substitution. You know what I mean? Substitute old behaviors
yes.
for new.
Thank you so much, man. I gotta say thank you because you just reiterate a lot of stuff that I tell my people in my group. I don't like to call them clients, but man, you you really hit the nail on the head again. Environment. There's not a lot of things you can't change. Especially we're products of our environment. We are. So I try to tell them to change your environment as much as you possibly can, where you're going to be the majority of the time. If you can't, you have to move. You have to switch your environment. You know what I'm saying? That if you're 100% committed to wanting to change, those are things that you just have to do. Um, whether it's just changing your room around to fit that environment. Like you said, toxins are everywhere. Um, environment could be anything. It could be the shower because depending on what state and city you're in, you're raining toxins in your body when you're taking a shower. So I just try to help people, recognize their environment, what's toxic in their environment, and try to change as many things in your environment as you possibly can to heal. You know what I'm saying? And you hit the nail on the head, man. There's a couple people in here asking a couple. No, it's not a couple questions. They're vibing with it, man. They can really get with it. Having a lot of idle time is what gets a lot of people. A lot of people say, "I'm not even going to start the challenge until I get the weekend off." You know what I'm saying? And then they get that weekend off, and it's too much time on their hands. It's too much sitting around. And so another thing I try to tell people is to set yourself up for success. Plan exactly what you're going to do those days. And another thing too that you said, meditation and affirmation is really important for reprogramming those cells. So you got to have your plan. You got to have your why. You got to have your affirmations all strapped. Okay,
Facts.
and you have to piece out your time each day. Each day, each second is a battle. So if you plan your battle strategy, you will win most of the time. That's why I tell people when they say, "Oh, I slipped up 4 times," it's like, man, if that was football, you'd be 26-4. That's a championship record right there. See what I'm saying? So don't beat yourself up. And like you said, those baby steps. You said, you just drank less of the coffee one day, and then you added a salad to it the next day. You know what I'm saying? Those little steps are so important to becoming who you're going to be. You know what I'm saying? And who you can see in your mind. And I think that's really important. So
Facts, yeah.
I I want to leave you. I want to leave you the floor to close out. You dropped so many jewels in here today, man. I really, really
Sure.
appreciate you, man. I just want to let you know how much I appreciate you for sharing your story. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to share that type of story. You know what I'm saying? Ask anybody that is struggling with their food. That's a hard. People still won't get on camera. There's people that have been in the group since the beginning, and they don't want to come in because they can't share that type of information. They still battling with that either way. You know what I'm saying? They won't say anything. They won't do anything about it. And they're stuck. You know what I'm saying? But for you to come on here with those type of addictions and be able to share your story, man, I got to give you all props in the world for that. I really appreciate you, bro. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you the floor. You can lead
Yeah,
us out to
appreciate
talk about anything you want to talk about, and also let people know where they can find you, man, to reach out to you. And I'm definitely interested on having you on again if you're down with it, because I mean, I think we have a real good chemistry, man, on the things that we talk about, the things that we understand, and you brought new perspective to me from like an AA point of view. And I also wanted to say um, to everybody in the group and everybody in the watermelon washout and everybody in the fruit up, this is what we're talking about. This is the type of therapy and the stories that we need to hear to help us. There's other people that's been down the same road that you've been down, maybe not on the same journey, but they've been down that path, and they can. And you sometimes you need to hear something from somebody who's actually went. Because I've never been down that road. Like he said, I was on the other side. I was addicted to getting money at one point. You know what I'm saying? To the point where I was selling to my own family members without any conscious of it. Like, I got to get the money. You're gonna buy it from somebody. You know what I'm saying? I had those type of thoughts. To now, the opposite. I want to help strangers. You know what I'm saying? So when I see my family eating bad, and I see my family doing bad, and I see my family struggling from this standard American diet, it used to trigger me, but it doesn't trigger me anymore. I have to be the one to be that example. I have to stand up and be that example to show you that you can come from that same situation as me. We all came from that situation. I'm talking about my family. To now, I'm pushing health. Literally, that's what we do. I got stuff everywhere. These are capsules, CMOS capsules lecture that we just made from earlier. Wifey earlier today, if you'd have called me on, Wifey was sitting right here. I was making powders, mixing powders, and she's capsulating, she's putting them in capsules. You know what I'm saying? We're still listening to the hustle music, Young Jeezy and stuff like that, but instead we transmute that. Now we're pushing health. We're pushing herbs. We're pushing nature. You see what I'm saying? So that was the transformation um, that um, that we had to go through. You know what I'm saying? Lachey, Lachey Taylor. Shouts to Lachey Taylor. Go check out her page. If you're on YouTube or you're on Facebook, I think they got her shadow banned or something on Facebook. They were messing with her because of a picture. But she's been going live every single day. One of the ones that inspired me to go live whenever I can. Just the confidence they have and the stuff they're talking about. She's talking about the same exact things. That standard American diet, which can wreck you because it's so sneaky, right? It's in everything. It's ingrained in world culture. I can't just say American culture. The world is engulfed by these drugs, right? Shout out to her. Shout out to Bobby Smith. Shout out to Kev Ramon. And while we're talking about dependencies, we really can't say addiction, but I said it. But he has a great book, and I guarantee if you read it, Nick, you'll be able to drop. You'll be able to pick up what he's putting down from the first chapter. You know what I'm saying? It makes a lot of sense. It's really simplified, but I think it's a dope read. I recommend it to all my clients and things like that. It's a really great book. But go ahead, finish us out, family.
Yeah, first of all, thanks, man. Like I could, I could spend another, 2, 3 hours talking about more stuff because my mind goes all over. But I know that we can't necessarily do that. So yeah, if you want to connect more in the future, maybe we can organize behind the scenes like a strategic kind of structured little subtopics we can focus on for another discussion here and there, whatever. And I don't have, as I told you, I don't have. I'm planning on doing any sort of YouTube, any other platforms other than Facebook. But for right now, if anyone wants to reach out and talk more and share what they're going through, and it's not like, and I'll say first of all, like words like, you have to do this and have to do that, and that's what changed in me is I don't have to do anything. If I want to right now, I could go back out and cop drugs. I know exactly where to go get it. Like nothing's changed out there. It's all the same stuff. So what happens with nowadays is I choose to do things out of me seriously wanting a better life for myself, a better life experience. And since now I'm aware that all of my symptoms, side effects, and pains, discomforts, depressions, anxieties, fight or flight, adrenaline, cortisol pumping through me is all biological, all of it. And if my biology's been compromised for so long, I think I deserve to get to know myself. I deserve to get to know who I am as a person, what I'm capable of.
Mm,
I recommend people get hobbies, learn something. Like I see people who are auto mechanics that are great auto mechanics, and then when I talk to them about health, as they're not drinking water and drinking soda all day and energy drinks and putting whatever candy and crap down in their body, and I'm like, there's just a disconnect. Like let's study, let's, instead of me binge watching Netflix, let me just type in biochemistry of a human being, like anatomy.
mm,
Let me learn what I am. Let me learn what's going
mm,
on inside me. Me and you talked a little bit about like ATP and storing ATP. It's like glycolysis, like the Krebs cycle. These are all fascinating things. Like let me look into that stuff. Let me learn about me. Let me
mm,
learn a new hobby that I've never done before. Let me learn a new language. Let me expand my goals. If I've never been outside the state, let me go plan a vacation outside the state. If I never started my own business, let me just plan on how I can start my own business. If I never traveled outside the country, let me try to travel outside the country. Um, put myself in uncomfortable situations is what I'm choosing to do nowadays to
mm,
force growth within myself and to be a better version of myself today than I was yesterday. And that progression that I doing this, adding this or whatever, like that wasn't steady. I want to remind everybody, like there was like a little bit forward and then a little bit back, like a little bit of this, and then I took that out, and then I had that. Like I give you credit for
yeah.
being vegan for 9 years. Like that's why all right, so that's why AA does this, and this is where I'll just remind people, like it is very, very important to do one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, sometimes 1 second at a time, sometimes. As soon as I tell myself I have to take, coffee out of my diet forever, and if I don't take meat or coffee or dairy or whatever it is, ice cream or whatever it is that I'm emotionally attached to, and if I tell myself and force that pressure upon myself, then I'm going to have more shame, more guilt, more remorse, hate myself more, have more negative self talk when I still participate in this behavior. Like if I
Mm,
took coffee out and moved forward with something, and then it just like I had a coffee, let's just say I had a coffee like a month after I got it out, and it was like, it's instead of getting mad at myself and saying, well, I told myself I was not going to have coffee forever and I did again. So I'm failure. I can't do this. What I recommend is when I participate in these old behaviors, if I'm a, like, if people are like porn addicts or something, it's like I went a month without it, or I went a month without social media, or I went a month without my television shows that I watch, or I did whatever. I was doing good. I was feeling better. I was feeling more motivated. I meditated more. I had all this progress. And then I go backwards. It's like I'm just reminding myself, well, I have choices to make in every moment of every day. And if I just remind myself that I love myself and that other people can't make me feel good or bad, it's ultimately my relationship with myself and the Most High. And if I wish to show myself genuine acts of love and kindness in every moment of every day, that it's best that I keep reminding myself that I don't have to do anything. I do have a choice though. And I hope that all of you choose to progress and be honest with yourselves. Because if I
Mm,
drank coffee right now, which I'm like years without it or whatever, but if I drank coffee right now, I know how I would feel. I know the bodily reaction that would happen. And like if I chose to the next day have another coffee and then chose to have more coffee, like I know that like to sit down with myself and evaluate, um well, is this choice going to bring me happiness, peace, joy, and and to be honest with myself that because now the side effects are going to be present. Like I'm sure if you ate meat right now, you said you're 9 years or something without it. I'm sure if you
right.
ate meat right now, you would have side effects, and then just sit down
Oh
with
yeah.
yourself and see it as progress and say, okay,
It
I
happened.
feel differently. And now I can look at myself in meditation. I can see and be honest with myself that, okay, I did make a choice to eat meat again. And this is how it made me feel. And there's
Mm,
cognitive behavioral techniques that I recommend doing. Looking into cognitive CBT, it's called cognitive behavioral therapy. So, like,
mm,
if what do I like about ice cream? Let's just say, because obviously I like something about ice cream if I'm eating it every night before bed, a half gallon of it or something. And so sit down and make a list and put it on paper. What do I actually like out of getting ice cream? What flavors like? And then make a con list and say, well, what does coffee or what does ice cream do for me that's negative? And
mm,
after these exercises and enough dialogue with myself, being honest with myself, I hope that we can all come to more of an awareness about what I want and what I don't want out of life, whether that's food, behaviors, life experiences, relationships, jobs, careers, hobbies, whatever it may be. Like, if we're clear and honest with ourselves about the type of all these experiences of life that we deserve forward in a way that has this continual progression, whether that's 3 steps forward, 1 step back, or whatever. So, and I just want to
mm.
reiterate, I have come off of every single drug that's mainstream or whatever, including these ketamines, including these
That's dope.
meth, including Adderalls, including Xanaxes, including whatever, all of it combined on and off for long enough where um, this, like you guys are saying, the standard American diet is, in my experience, no different application that I would do differently for drugs or for food, other than if it's that severe of a drug addiction, and because life can end for a lot of people very fast in that way compared to a long, steady death with the food or whatever, that I recommend seeking the help, having the courage to do it, and in finding that courage to do it, finding the support to move forward, finding new relationships and new abilities to create a new life for ourselves. And
Mm.
like you said, you gave me credit. Thank you for your kind words. I'll end with this. But thank you for your kind words. I hope we can build in the future. But like, to me, this is no thing. Like I of treatment this time. Um, like I said, I made that decision that day in the rec deck or whatever, and I don't care who doesn't like it, because, and I don't care who wants to act like there's more to life than, but I present myself. I call it like, I don't recover anonymously, like Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't recover anonymously. I will tell anybody and everybody, and I have since day one of getting out of treatment, exactly what I've been through. exactly how terrifying it is to be on my deathbed, how seriously I take all of this nowadays. And everything I do, whether that's a job, whether that's a landlord, whether that's people I meet at farmers markets, or whether that, like I said, professional, whether that's with my family, whether that's anybody or anybody that I meet, and anybody that knows me knows that that is first and foremost priority, is to constantly keep myself in check, to constantly remind myself of the situation I was in, and the situation I continually find myself in, to learning how to be a human being, these defects and has these compulsions, and to and I like one of the speakers that I listen to that says, like, please, everyone who's going through something, don't recover in silence, recover out loud, because just by sharing what you've been through, you're going to affect so many people without even trying to, because there are so many people suffering in silence, that the only way, and then that's like me working a 12 step. If I were to be a step worker in the 12 step fellowship programs, it goes back to what you said you're doing now. It goes back to service to others is the only thing that keeps people sober at the end of their journey. Long-term sobriety, long-term happiness, long-term joy, satisfaction out of life. And I've met people with 10 years, 15 years, but when you meet sometimes the people that have 30, 40 something years, a lot of the times they can be kind of like jerks, and they lost the reason of why they're into it, and they're kind of just like doing it for like the status of, oh, I have 30, 40 years clean or whatever. But then you do once in a while run into those people that have 30, 40 years clean, and you could hear it in their voice how serious they are, that when they go to a meeting every night still 30, 40 years later, and they'll drive anybody fresh out of treatment to wherever they got to
Oh
go to
yeah.
hit a meeting, or they'll try to get people jobs or try to help people out or whatever, that they like, I'm not helping you, bro. Like, I'm helping me to stay sober, stay clean. So if I'm sharing
Facts.
honestly,
Facts.
and if I'm helping others, then I'm doing what's best for me and for my journey of peace and serenity and safety and reassurance. So thanks again for having me on.
Ooh.
Um, I
Jules,
hope I
man.
wasn't I hope I wasn't all over the place. I know there's still some more stuff that my mind's concocting that I could go and explain in more detail and stuff. But as far
Well,
as
that's why I
the
said I gotta bring you back on.
flow,
It's all good.
yeah. So as far as the flow and the message, I think we did good as far as off the top of the dome with nothing written on paper. And thank you for having me. And
Yeah.
thanks for inspiring the people that you're inspiring and doing what you're doing. As I, told you, anybody that's following Tiger and working with him, like, I chose to reach out to him, the other 20 people that I was reaching out to, because I can tell, as you guys could probably tell, that he has a heart that is generous, and he has a lot of wisdom, and he didn't try to push anything on me, or he didn't try to act like he was getting anything from me. He gave me all respect and all of his attention that he was available to give, and treated me with nothing but kindness and compassion and courtesy day one. So y'all are rocking with somebody that has it together, and I think you made a good decision to connect with dude. And I hope he does have a future, and I hope that you and I could even have discussions more. And any way I can help with anything that any of your clients are going through, or any way you see possible to connect in the future, I'm all for it, bro. Much love and respect to you.
Man, you dropped some jewels there, man. I don't even want to. I don't even want to go on after that, man, because man, you closed it up exactly, man. Just if anybody's out there listening to this, and anybody heard the stuff that he was saying, put some electricity emojis in the chat, some of the energy emojis, because man, I mean, just to say this, to be honest, when I hear you, when we talk back and forth a lot, like sometimes when we talk back and forth, we send each other the voice messages. I really didn't expect this coming from you. You know what I'm saying? I really just wanted to hear your story. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't expect it, man. And I really think it was amazing, bro. It was amazing, and I really appreciate you. But
Yeah,
everybody out there on their
if
journey.
anyone
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go
and
ahead.
anyone that's listening still, or anybody that will be coming across this in the future, or if it gets posted or whatever, like, and I'll try to end with this too, is that if no one has told you that you're an awesome person and you deserve love and respect, and you haven't really heard that lately, that I love and respect you, as I hope you love and respect yourself. And if you don't, I hope you find the motivation and the courage to learn how to love and respect yourself, because you're deserving of it. And there's support out there to help you in that journey, which people like Tiger. And you don't realize, like, you're trying to get healthy, you don't want to, have this disease or a lot of whatever your motivation is. At the end of the day, the journey is learning how to love ourselves, and recognizing when we finally learn that we love ourselves, man, it's like I can give myself the self-respect I deserve finally. I'm not perfect, but like I wish all of you, you know, that feeling of knowing that, man, I am a really cool person and God did a good job when designing me. And I have a lot to
Facts,
offer
facts.
this world, and I have a lot of talent, skills, creativity, and things that I need to offer this world. So I hope all of you have that experience and continue to follow this guy or any other assistance you have in your healing journeys and your journey to self-love. So much peace and respect to you all.
Facts. Thank you all for joining me and everybody that's out there on their journeys, whether you're on the watermelon journey, whether you're on the mono eating journey, or you're trying to fight other addictions. I wish you nothing but the best. And that's honestly coming from the heart. I wish you nothing but the best. And if you need any, I am available for coaching coming up here in July, starting tomorrow. Um, we are pretty much full again, but and I appreciate you guys that the new people that signed up. We're pretty much full again, but I do still take consultations. If you want a consultation, reach out to me. We'll schedule a consultation. If you need supplements, you need herbs, go to soulfuelsupplements.com. Soulfuelsupplements.com. I design herbs specifically for anywhere that you're at, but specifically for anybody who's going through, these mono challenges. Anybody who's, definitely going through mono challenges because, when you're eating one thing for a certain amount or an extended amount of time, depending on what you're eating and where you got it from, you're going to lack nutrients. You're going to lose a lot of weight. You're going to go through a lot of different transformations. So if you're interested in mineralization and keeping your minerals and your energy up, go to soulfuelsupplements.com. Reach out to me for any questions that you may have. And I appreciate you guys for joining in, putting the comments in. When everybody's here and they're putting comments in and they're asking questions, it makes everything so much better. It's just adding energy to high vibrational conversation. So I appreciate you guys 1,000%. I'm actually got a time frame for the times that I'm going to start going live now. So Wednesdays and Sundays, I'm going to definitely be, but expect to pop up here and there. But Wednesday and Sundays are definitely the days I'm setting aside to allow myself to go on live with sometimes it'll be with a guest. It might be by myself if I can't get a guest, but those are the times that I dedicated to going live. So I hope to see you guys there, and peace and blessings on your journey.
One more thing too.
Oh, go ahead. Did you have something else to say?
I don't know if I was just gonna say, like, as I totally forgot that, as I told you, I'm in the process of like learning how to present myself and offer assistance in any way, shape, or form. I do have products I sell at the farmers markets and do like that, but I'm in the process of figuring all that out. So if you guys want to message me or ask me any questions about my journey, or anybody that's struggling or suffering, I like reach out, and I would love to offer any sort of resources and advice and connect you to any groups or anything that I found helpful throughout my journey. Please reach out anytime. And that's all, just over Facebook Messenger for now or whatever.
All right. Perfect. All right, family. It was great talking to you. And we can continue that conversation behind the scenes also. So peace and blessings on your journey. Talk to you guys next time.